All right, guys. Honestly, if Torsten and I can't remember the guy's name from the team, from Torsten's team. I think he was from Spain. But if they weren't able to come back this week, these were the other two panels I would have liked to hear more about. I am not big into flight as much, but I want to hear as much as I could about that, just to get a better understanding. The more they explain, the better. But again, the more that we have it in our hands, the better. But the FPS team, everything that they showed at the event at CitizenCon were like the usability or just the quality of life updates that we really badly needed when we're out of our ships, right? A lot, outside of maybe the UI map when we're out of our ship and the ping, the FPS stuff was the highlight of CitizenCon for me, right? Because it's the stuff that looked very polished and the stuff that looked like it can come to us faster. Obviously, base building was incredible, but this was the stuff that I thought was really great. So, with that said, it's an hour and 16 minutes long, and I have an org thing today, so we got to get into this right away. I will try not to pause too much, I promise, okay? So don't tell me to stop pausing in chat.
Sherman. You guys had my Python here, right?
Yeah, I remember this sketch.
Yeah, the 4 Sherman.
Oh, we used to dream of living in a box.
It's a dream of living in a corridor. No? Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Star Citizen Live. I'm Jared, and this is the show they let me do for some reason. Joining us on the show this week, we have members from our esteemed...
Same joke every week.
What are your teams called now? Because didn't we just do a big restructure? What do you have team names yet? Or are they still trying to work that down? Anyway, we got people from one of the kind of the FPS team, the shooty and the punchy and the player interaction-y team. So we don't know what their team name is yet. So we're just going to go straight to the people. We got Zach, Inez, and Jens. Zach, Inez, Jens. Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to the show. This is your first time in the spaceship, all of you, right?
Yeah, it looks
I've had a look around before, but this is first
Jans
time
was the
seeing
armor
it.
guy, right?
I can't believe you actually have it in space. That's the most impressive part.
Yeah.
Well, we're
It's
landed
unexpected.
We're landed on Pyro 3 right now.
It's crazy. It's really nice in here. It's cushy.
The one guy's mic is
Well,
low.
with the gravity on,
Yeah.
it's easier to sit down than it was earlier.
Everybody else not so much. Let me know how volume is,
Smash into the spaceship. Yeah.
since they're not talking about anything.
Effing nerds. All right, so
Jared could say that. He's the biggest nerd in the
You gotta
room.
compose yourself a lot for this one.
well, there's usually a big period of time where I got to prep to get to do some Zen time and I get to focus and get ready for. I didn't get any of that today, so I was just under the desk,
That's the most Los Angeles thing I've ever heard.
with wires a couple minutes ago. So Jens, Inez, and Zach are here. They were 3 of the 4 people. Francesco Riccucci from our Frankfurt office is unavailable to join us today, who presented live from the first person at CitizenCon. And we thought we'd bring them on the show and have them answer some follow-up questions.
Honestly, the only person that can't show up is the guy from the AI team. Just like the AI, so it's just fine, right? None of us expect to see what we saw from the AI in Star Citizen today, so honestly, he can wait until the performance improves. I really am tired of hearing about how good the AI are going to be when we experience them so irregularly for right now. Sometimes you get that 30 FPS server and you're like, whoa, but most of the time that's not the case, so it's okay, and we'll see them when we see them.
Came from you, the Star Citizen.
Everyone's way lower than me. I could lower myself.
Which we collected on Spectrum throughout the week and let you guys vote up the questions. We let them pick the questions. I have not seen the questions. It's part of my normal prep.
Guys, it's the classic Jared is louder than everyone else. That's really what it is. It's not necessarily me.
And whatnot, but we let them pick the questions and I didn't do my job. So we're just going to jump right into it because we got Yogi waiting to do the second half here. So Jens, really this is going to be for anybody, but I'm just going to look at Jens when I say this.
What did Jens show?
Some people
I think it was the armor.
are already calling the new radar and ping mechanics wall hacks. Can you tell, because you can tell can you tell us all of the upsides, the downsides, and the possible ways for people to remain undetected so that people would stop calling it that?
Where to start? So definitely a concern internally too, right? So I would say visually very strong at the moment. Like if you ping someone, as you saw in the video, you see them and almost nothing else because it's such a strong visual. So definitely that needs tuning. There's a lot of work left to do on that. There's the time it takes to charge up the ping. There's whether you should be able to see through all types of occlusion. Can you have thicker walls, stuff like that to make encounters different. Then we're given tons of parameters for designers to tweak, like pierceability, range, signal noise ratio. It's my radar or my
the classic. We give them tons of stuff to the designers, but the designers, we don't have any.
Scanner better than your anti-scanner, whatever you want to call it.
Where are they?
I think those are the kind of things we can do on the technical side, the engineering side to do it. But then at the end of the day, it's probably more Zach's side to sort of say like how will design use those tools to.
Yeah. So obviously we don't want to make it busted. That was a very strong version that we showed off. We said gameplay balancing in progress, I believe. But it's the case of how emissions tie into this, right? So for example, we have the idea of decoys and jammers potentially on suit. Those could be components inside suits that would essentially make your emissions much lower, maybe practically invisible. That's obviously going to be down to gameplay balance. And if you're in like a heavy armor, maybe you have heavy emissions. But there's always like a
We're back to the, well, maybe we'll do this, maybe we'll do that. What have you done? What are you doing? What will we see when it's implemented? I'm tired of the maybes. Like, they always show us as if it's done, but then it's always, well, but we haven't really done anything, right? And I guess, like we saw last week, that's the difference between a showcaseable feature and a shippable feature. These features were definitely showcaseable, but it does appear that a lot of them are nowhere near shippable yet. And when we're saying all these maybes and all these edge cases and all these different, I don't know, I think the laws with the entering other people's vehicles, like it was showcaseable, and they thought they were going to ship it to us, and then they were like, wait, there's so much more work we need to do. And they held it back, and they did it, and now we have it, right? I just think that that's where we are with a lot of these features right now, and that's okay. Right? All of that's okay. It's just the way they present it is they do make it feel like it's a lot closer than it probably is. And, yep. So, the ping, I wouldn't expect for some time just because of this.
Backward with this, right? So if you're light and you're invisible and you scan, for example, a heavy, you should be able to see him in theory. But if there's a heavy, for example, and he scans you and you're in more of a suit with a much lower emission, or you're in a state with much lower emissions, you potentially might not come up. So there's so many things we can do to balance it, and we essentially showed it at its strongest, right? Because when we communicate something out like that, we always want people to see how is that in its almost maybe potentially strongest state and things like that. So I mean, gameplay balance, all of that is in flux. It's tweakable, it's changeable. So obviously, we don't want an experience to be, PvP to be trivialized by anything like, radar becoming a crux, essentially, right? We're completely aware of that, and obviously, we're conscious of that. We play the game ourselves, and we wouldn't want that happening to players.
Cap, just kidding. I'm sure he does, but if it was possible, and it clearly isn't yet, I personally would have liked to see you show it in its strongest state, and then you show me what stealthy was like using that mechanic. That would have been the best way to show that. But obviously they weren't ready or able to show that yet, so they didn't.
I think it's very. First of all, I think it should go without saying, but we always get new people every week, every month, every year. So it bears repeating that nothing you've ever seen ever on any ISC, SCL,
Here we go.
CitizenCon, Pillar Talk, gosh, we've done so many shows with these, is ever final. Like we've never ever showcased anything that's.
But this is, I know the game's an alpha, okay? But what's different about this than everything else, this game versus everything else, every other game finalizes the design, does the design, and then tweaks. We don't tweak, we rework still. And I know that's what being in an alpha is. But what it's turned into is we don't finish anything. And we leave the door open for creeping into every direction ever. And we act like this is okay after 10 years. Because the time that should have been spent during these 10 years was around design, but the time was spent on ships, visuals, locations, and pretty things. But the time should have been spent on all the little edge cases of what happens when I ping my radar, and it could have been the ugliest thing ever. We could have spent all the time on how will the players play our game instead of how will the game look. And they always put these caveats like this is normal, and it's not normal. There's no shot that this is normal, but they pretend like it is. And if you look at every other game studio, they don't do this. They just don't do this. If something is completely borked and broken, think salvage, cargo. Yeah, you rework that completely, right? But most people have their designs in place. They work towards those designs, and that's it. And then from there, they tweak. This has been constantly talked about, but never worked on.
Final. That's not what we do. We are always showcasing our work in progress. We'll wait until it's presentable. We'll wait until it gives an almost complete picture of what we're trying to do. But we're not the people who wait until it's done to show it to you. We're not the people who wait until it's done to put it in the game for testing. Yeah. That's just not who we are at CIG. So it's always important to remember that whatever you're seeing, wherever you're seeing it, is always this work in progress. And
that's also not true, because it has to look visually pleasing in order for it to be in the game. And that's what holds these things up, because they could come in not being visually pleasing. Think the initial tractor beam patch on the PTU. It was non-functional, and they weren't taking feedback on it. That wasn't good, but it doesn't look as visually pleasing as it does now, right?
For something like scanning and radar, it's much easier to take it all the way to the max and then prune it down like a tree. It's harder to add twigs and figs back to a tree after you've cut them down. So it's, you start with as big a tree of features as possible, and then you start pruning it down through the anti-scanner, which we're going to call that now. Everybody just go through. It's not Jammer anymore. It's anti-scanner.
I'm Swedish.
I
make words up. I love the English language because you make words up.
I'm not. I prefer it. Yeah, no.
I love the English language because you make words up. We really do. We really do. But yeah, man. I mean, those are my frustrations with the game, and I hope that makes sense. And I know there's always the argument of it's an alpha, but if we don't, they always say that we're showing you things at their earliest state, but they're not, right? They do put them in like these really crappy states sometimes. I don't know. I might be actually contradicting myself here, maybe. Because I'm tired of, and I'm going through my own mental gymnastics about what I actually think about this, and my mind is always changing, and I'm always learning, and I'm always trying to figure these things out. And sometimes people get mad at me for thinking, and that's what I'm doing right now, is I really want features to come in more polished because the game is live, and it should be more playable. And I wish maybe we utilized the PTU to show maybe this scanning mechanic in its absolute worst looking state. Best example, I think, you ever look at the HUD when you're in FPS at the top, and you just see those bars going up and down, and they never really told you what they were, right? That's something that I look at and I go, okay, what is that? Share that with us if you want, or don't. And it's not in a good looking state. It's not good UI. It's not nothing, but it's there. And I'm okay with that in the PTU. If it's not ready and you're not happy with it from a playability, and honestly, every major feature, scanning definitely one of them, should go in the PTU. We should use it. They should see how we use it, and they should pull it out. And then they should push the patch to live. And then the next PTU patch, they put it back in, and we see how it progresses. And then they get some more feedback, and then they pull it out. And then the next patch, they put it in, and they've gathered all their stuff, okay? And then it goes into live. Live's still a testing environment. It shouldn't be. My argument is, and they say what it is, and that's fine. I'm arguing that it no longer should be, or at least not as much. Of course, it's still a testing environment because the game is still even WoW's live environment is a testing environment. So that's a complete cop-out, right? World of Warcraft has been a release game forever. It's not an alpha. But that is still a testing environment because you see the way players play and you adjust your game because of that. So that argument is stupid. And I'm not calling you stupid. You're just repeating what they say. And I'm not saying they're stupid. Right? Because WoW is just as much of a testing environment in that way. Right? And that's it. So I don't know how easy it would be to do that. It is, trust me, they've done it before and it is easy. So every game dev build has everything in it. It has Squadron 42 and Star Citizen in it, and they pull out the Squadron 42 stuff. Sometimes not all of it, because you see the data miners find it and stuff, right? And then they branch off and make 322, let's say. And then 322 has all these things that they're working on, and if they're not ready to go, they pull those out. They do it all the time, okay? It's not as hard as you would think.
I'm embracing it. I'm not making fun. So it's just much easier to bring it down and find all the ways to
and have it
impact
not
it and
be
stuff.
misunderstood.
I was going to mention one more thing.
Oh,
Also, if you think of it from a PvP point of view, it's more like if you do a ping to find people, like Zach was saying, you might see people that have the right thing, but they will see you, right? So you're basically going it's like a taunt. I'm saying I'm going to check if there's anyone here, but I also know probably everyone's not going to know that I'm here. So it's
this used to happen with
it's a bit
the
of a tricky beast for PvP that I feel definitely tuned more towards
no
PvE.
longer though.
Yeah, I think anybody that's ever worked for any MMO in the world is going to tell you that PvP tuning is never done. It's just this constant, ever evolving, ever changing beast.
That's a nice thing, right? Because if you really, really dislike such a, like radar and scanning, it's like, okay, you can put the armor on, which is heavily resistant to that. So you will be able to have the player expression that you want to be able to get the gameplay that you...
Yeah, but there'll be downsides to that. So if you really don't like the radar and scanning system of this game, but maybe this isn't the game for you. And he can't really say that, right? Because what if the downsides to the radar and scanning suit is, makes your gameplay less enjoyable or something? I don't know. But
you want to facilitate.
Next question. Let's see. Really excited for the IK-powered interactions with buttons and control panels.
Yeah,
any thoughts at this point
cool.
for interactions that are out of the player's reach?
Yeah, so we didn't show any, but yeah, we do have a version that we're calling for now Bluetooth. The naming is still
what was it called?
Bluetooth, but it's still naming is still not
fucking
like
naming,
that. No, I don't think so as well. I mean, I wanted like Luffy, like Rubber Man, like you actually go and touch the buttons, but no. So the version we have is like the player will play an animation of interacting with his mobiGlas, and we have an animation on the screen as well, telling that he's interacting with the object, and then we trigger the interaction.
So someone in the chat said space 2 for the
No, well, I'm just going to go on record right now. If this thing ends up being called Startooth, I'm quitting.
everything's star in front of it.
Following up on that then, are there going to be ship interaction animations when using a ship touchscreen? Are there going to be ship interaction animations when using a ship touchscreen MFDs, or is it only for physical buttons?
No. We do have some physical interactions with some UI screens, like we showed for like the elevator panels. But anything like any more screens are with more complex interactions, we are avoiding it.
That would be crazy.
Like it's a bit hard to get the balance. Like we want to do some, I don't know, search or like do certain operations in the screen. So having that doesn't really work very well. We talked about maybe having a pose on a player, having a bit with more connection. So maybe we actually see the player with the hands on the sides, not for ships, but other terminals and kiosks around the game. But all this is we're still discussing options, but no, at the moment.
I like that idea.
Yeah, I would just quickly say that one thing for me that was important is that if you start putting the hand onto the UI, and it's quite like a high fidelity UI, then you start obscuring the UI.
Yeah.
Right.
So that was quite, I always felt that would kind of lessen the sort of, you kind of want to bring the UI in focus, right? And you wouldn't use your...
Stupid question, piss you off? Why? That one doesn't... I understand why they asked the question, hey, if we're going to be pressing all these buttons, well, there's these virtual buttons on the UI, would I press those as well? I know it would be like super awkward for, let's say, you're selling cargo at a station, right? Like to put your finger on the bar and move it would be super weird, but to press certain buttons, I don't like on an MFD maybe or something. I kind of get where they were going. Thank you, 20. But yeah, I don't, and thank you, but I don't know how that would. I get it. I just get it on that one.
Space, and you want to see what's going on there. You want to see all the little interesting transitions and interactions. You don't want to see a big hand covering everything interesting happening. So
that's an interesting point that I hadn't actually considered. This Chris is always fond of saying you bring it to the point of realism, then you bring it back to the point of fun. It's like, yes, it might be realistic to reach out and obscure.
Is Chris always saying that, or do you always say that now? I think it's a Jared thing now.
The full touchscreen
we
every
never
time
hear
you try to do
Chris.
it. But I've said because
that.
we try to have as many diegetic, user interfaces as possible, that would make it fundamentally impossible to try to read half of it. So you do have to kind of, how do you balance that? Is that just a gut feeling? Is there a metric internally, or is it just on a case by case basis? That's too much. Pull it back. That's not enough.
I think there's a standard
do more.
in video games, probably, right?
I think, a lot of the time, I think the elevator ones we used in the video are a great example because they're like a list, very large, but large, friendly buttons. I would say they are perfect to press, right? Because that's all.
You
all
can't miss them. Yeah.
You go to something like the shopping kiosk, and it's a lot going on.
Yeah. Sadly, my request of making everything the fist slam got turned down.
Just everything.
Yeah, it's like, it's a true visceral experience, right?
It was really satisfying the first time I saw it.
Doom.
It's really nice. I love it.
Just play Doom with the.
They wouldn't let us do it on the toilets because apparently it's too destructive and not delicate enough. You whack that handle, you're going to get a proper flush.
Says a lot, doesn't it?
They don't let me on here very often. I apologise.
Zach, do you know what the 3 seashells are?
3 seashells?
Yeah.
Ooh.
No.
The youngsters.
Pete's shaking his head over there.
They had this conversation at CIG so much. They're like, "Do you remember this movie from the 80s?" And I was like, "No, I wasn't alive." I'm employed to make all the directors feel old, I think.
Well, good job. All right, Jens, maybe this one's for you. I don't know. Is part of the FPS weapon rework also removing the automatic reload of the weapon?
Yes. Good question.
Geez. Is part of the FPS weapon rework also removing the automatic reload of the weapon and rather allowing the player the choice to reload the magazine, swap the weapon, or do neither and run away instead? So I think they're talking about that every time you try to reload, it's pulled out, but then it's automatically won. So
Nope, Jared doesn't play the game, so he wouldn't know.
Want to interrupt it?
I know he doesn't have time to play the game. I'm not trying to critique. I'm not trying to be bad, but this happens way too often on the show where the question that actually needs to get answered, and this one is really important, might not get answered.
Like
Hopefully
halfway?
it does.
I mean, it should be possible to interrupt it already, but it's definitely, like I said, like going through now we got a lot more features, going through them and increasing the interactivity is like really high on our list. or a wish list, just to make everything feel smooth, and what you want to do is what you can do,
This
and
was
you're in
probably
control
the
of what's
most
happening.
important question. So just in case people don't know what the question that was actually asked is when you shoot and you run out of bullets, the game automatically begins a reload that you cannot get out of. It makes you walk slow and you're stuck in it. So you can't cancel the animation. You get stuck in an animation. It is awful. And that question needs to be followed up. I will do whatever I can to make sure that that question gets followed up. I know DJ's in chat. Maybe he can ask the guys, because I'm sure he talks to some of these guys. But that question absolutely needs to be followed up. They do touch on it? Okay, cool. I will let them
obviously,
cook
again, from the engineering side, there's challenging.
You're here. I thought I would ask you to follow up on it. Fuck.
It's not always a very
one of the
easy
worst
thing
parts
to
of the game.
implement systemically. A lot of the times you have to go into each type of feature and put in, like, where do you interrupt it? How do you queue it? How do you sort of not, if you've queued it and then you decided to do something else while it was queued, do you then unqueue it? You know, all these things, like, you know, I was jumping, then I land. Should I reload because I press reload while I was jumping? And in the mid of the sort of heavy land animation.
Yeah, that's not the question, but still an interesting
So yeah,
answer.
it's not as easy as perhaps design would like it to be, because
Yeah.
they like to give us a big spreadsheet and like, make this.
That's the whole thing we're working on at the moment, right? It's called the action matrix. So essentially, this thing is basically supposed to make Star Citizen extremely fluid, like you'd expect. Like, if you're doing actions, they have the intended result of what you think. So when you're playing a game, if you have to think about something, that usually means there's not the level of fluidity you'd expect, right? So for example, with our slide, if you switch weapon during the slide, like if you press 1, as soon as you go into the slide, the expectation of you would be, as soon as I regain control of my character, I switch weapon. And that's something that we have to manually put in, because we have to basically author and dictate which actions can go into which other actions. So the whole idea of the action matrix work is essentially, it's like a designer can go in and say, well, if I'm reloading and I want to be able to cancel out of it, I should be able to. And obviously that's something that, we've specifically talked about a lot. We've heard it requested a lot as well. And it is something that we are planning on doing. Obviously, that being the biggest example of how the action matrix will come in handy.
Okay.
So hopefully once the action matrix work is done, you'll have this
It doesn't answer the question. When I finish shooting my gun, it should not automatically reload. Period. Because then I still have to cancel the reload. That should have never happened in the first place. Okay? The action matrix is whatever. That's cool. But, yeah.
fluid experience that you expect in most contemporary FPSs.
And it'll never be done.
Yeah.
They'll be like, we'll get the matrix, we'll implement it the way it is, and then someone tweaks it, we'll reiterate on it, and
obviously,
and it's back and forth, sit and play it.
Yeah, because it's also the case of
more.
When can you exit out of stuff, right, as well? It's like, for example, if you med pen, right, when you go douche like that, as soon as you pull out, is that when we give control?
Yeah.
And obviously there's a lot more like layers and depth that we can go into it. How much expression do we allow of fluidity versus how much do we control and punish an action? So if you med pen, that's obviously quite a defensive action. You're getting your health back. Should we allow you to?
Because I guess to respond to what he just said there, how much do we punish and control an action? The reason the question is being asked is because reloading is incredibly punishing. If I didn't make that clear, if you accidentally reload while out in the open, you die.
Break early out of that? Does that allow skill expression by breaking out early? And there's all these fun design questions that we can propose and easily put in now. Well, we say to you, can you please allow us to do that?
Yeah, and we'll try. We try. We always try.
So the nickel version of that answer is we're working on a thing, we're referring to it as the action matrix.
Yes.
It'll probably be called the Star Action Matrix by the time it's released.
Star Matrix.
We're so good at naming things.
I just realized what I should call the teams.
What?
Star teams. It's done.
And obviously when it comes closer to fruition and being implemented in the PU, we'll almost certainly do a segment on it in ISC and whatnot.
Yes.
I want to address a question
Never
in
answered the
chat.
question.
Tico Rico says, "Will we have SATA balls soon? Please say yes." No.
that BB's all?
I see this pop up every once in a while. I'm always very confused about it because SATA ball was a thing that allowed us to test zero-G mechanics when we didn't have the PU. It was a 2015 thing that was being developed back with our partners at Alphonic at the time because we didn't know when the PU was going to come online and we wanted to get some zero-G testing. Once the PU came online, there was no real reason for SATA ball anymore because we could just do all our zero-G testing there in the PU. So I'm surprised in the year 2023 this question still comes up, but it comes up enough times that every time I say it, I'm like, oh, I should really address that and whatever. And so
It's still a game
Rico
that,
Pico or whatever the heck your name was, you're the one who got lucky drawn right there.
I think, still think it's a game
let's
that
see,
people
what else
want
do we
to
got?
play, maybe.
Can we expect, another IK button. Can we expect to see IK button interactions on things like shop kiosks? I think it'd be really neat to see others
They
do
already
it, but
answered.
might be obstructive to your own view possibly. Well, this person was pressing it. So yeah.
Yeah, we kind of already touched that.
Yeah, I
so
was
yeah,
gonna
no.
Good job, whoever sent that question. I didn't get the name on that one. You were right. It would be obstructive. Will the looting screen? It's the end of the week.
Jared turned into a
Will
baby.
the looting screen be extended to armor and
little
undersuits
baby.
at some point?
Yes,
Good
it
question.
will. We're working on it. So yeah, PU version will have armor and clothing. Basically, we'll have
Ooh, okay. PU version will have armor and clothing. So we obviously saw the Squadron 42 version. We won't be swapping armor in Squadron. You wear what your Marine or whatever wears. Makes sense, actually. So I understand now why we never saw the armor.
two views. So we have the main view, which will be very similar to what we show at CitizenCon. And then the secondary view that the player can go to by using a keybind, a shortcut, then we'll bring up the either clothing or armor, depending on the context, and all the similar operations we currently have for the other ones. Yep.
Sweet.
I remember that the looting screen was on screen for all of about 3 seconds at CitizenCon, and the chat was like, "Where's armor? Where's clothes? Where's armor?" It's like that. So I was like,
Yeah, I think like our main concern now at the moment, like, it's very clean because for Squadron we have a very controlled limit of items that the player can carry. PU can go wild with
yes.
heavy armor, so I think we are in talks with the UI and user experience teams to try to.
Okay, guys. From what I saw at CitizenCon, I thought this was going to be one of the features that were the closest to coming. And now I don't like at all. That's kind of disappointing.
Balance it out, get the best experience, but yeah, try not to clutter as much. So.
We touched on it with the UI team. We had the UI team on last week, but it bears repeating here because not everybody can watch
And
everything
it's
that we
fair
do.
that it's not, but I'm disappointed.
These Squadron 42 technologies, these UIs, these features and whatever, they're not just brought over to Star Citizen by checking the multiplayer box and it going. A lot of these things have to be reshaped and reformed to work with the Precision Universe. With a Precision Universe that's continuously evolving. Like when they were first developed for Squadron, they might have included the way the PU was working then. And then, but as they, it's always this thing of them diverging and then bringing them back, and then diverging and then bringing them back. We're in the process of bringing them back right now. So those adjustments are what's going to take some time, and why we can't say
guys.
that.
Whoever's saying I should work at CIG, no, no. I think more people who play the game should work at CIG, like who really love the game, but no. I'm just a person on the internet who plays video games who just shares their own opinion. And that's it.
This will be out in January or...
I do not work there.
February?
It's also the one thing I think of when I see that question is always like, so for me, you have the two screens, right? So you have the first person screen, the loot screen, that's all about like, I'm in the middle of combat, I need some ammo, I need some grenades. And I got the big screen where I'm a paper doll, I'm in the middle, I can dress myself, I can move things between bags, I can have my, here's a bag with all the helmets I've collected, here's one with, my...
How dare he say paper doll when he made a third-person inventory?
favorite knickknacks
disgusting.
and whatever. And it's funny when you say that the first
How
people
dare he.
ask is, where's armor? It's like they're in the middle of combat, like I need a quick way to completely change my outfit because, you know, this encounter will not go well unless I'm wearing that pink helmet.
It is the screen as well. It is game changer. It is so nice.
Yeah.
It works you'd expect, and it's just fantastic to use.
Yeah, I think if you get it for the weapons, even if you don't get
Oh, yeah.
armors, it's such a win.
When you're panicking, you need to grab a med pen. You just have that, like, again, it's you know, that fluidity, right? It's like you've gone in, you grab the
could tell
thing,
it
it's
was
done what you
really
expected, and it's like,
smooth.
yes, I'm in the zone.
Bacon of War following along with Saddlebugs. He's going to show this to all the Necrode features. How is Grabby Hands doing? Grabby Hands isn't in development anymore either. We surpassed that with our interaction system years ago. So that's one of those things. When we do weekly, recurring, a docu-series behind the scenes every single week of a game that's in development, you're going to see things that we try. And some things that we try work and some things that we try don't. Grabby Hands didn't work.
You don't communicate it like you're trying. You communicate it like you tried after it didn't work. You never communicate it very well that you're trying. You communicate that this is what we're doing. Even though they're always like, things are subject to change, it's always communicated in a way that, like, this thing is done, or this is what we're doing, and this is what the game is going to be.
We've sent...
And I think the only issue with it is that you're funding the game through these communications in a lot of ways, and people decide whether or not they're interested in the game because of the features that you're making. So when you think that feature is going to be a thing, it excites you about the game. You know, Grabby Hands, bad example, but I do think, you know, sometimes I get really excited about something and it just doesn't end up happening or whatever, right? It's just the never-ending issue that they'll always run into with the way they fund the game and the way they communicate it. Is they'll always make themselves look bad, and they just have to kind of accept it, I guess. I don't know.
We got the whole
'Cause
player
they're not gonna
interaction system
change.
since then. So, I'm assuming that was a genuine question and not somebody trolling me. So
I still think
answered it.
Saddleball should get made, DJ.
Here's one. All right.
Fun
So
game, yeah.
they were, the second they saw the inventory, they were asking for armor. FPS compass? Ships have one. Why can't that be something in the FPS HUD?
Well, I have something very. I printed this especially. I don't know if we get so I might have to go to the camera.
We don't have a zoom yet.
Yeah. Well, if you look at the UI talk
This guy,
or
what
the
a
life and
badass.
first person talk, you will see that there.
This is so fucking based. Holy shit. It's like, hey, idiot. Oh my, I like this guy. I think he would. Why doesn't this guy watch my channel? Because he seems, out of all the devs that that get annoyed by this community, this guy I think I would be the best friends with.
It's an FPS compass. So you can go watch our panel or the UI panel, and it's here. So I've, for the people who
That's
missed
so
it, I've drawn a big
fucking
red
based.
box and an arrow for you as well. So yes, we do have an FPS compass.
And we showed it at CitizenCon.
And we might need to make it bigger.
Twice.
Based on the feedback.
Well, yeah,
You know, thanks for that.
it happens.
The guy at the top did the very political answer. We might need to make it a little bigger with that feedback, and he's just like, "Let me drink my glass of water." Shut up, bitch.
We're having a laugh, but we showed a lot.
Yes.
At CitizenCon.
Yes.
You know, it's not it's not completely unreasonable.
Did anybody catch that? Jared just said we're having a laugh. Did anybody just catch that? Jared's been in the UK for a while. You having a laugh?
That something got missed.
Of course.
You know,
Are you
across
taking the
8
piss?
hours. 2 8-hour days and whatnot. So
He just did it.
It's a lot of cool stuff. on
The only
on it.
reason why I did that was because that was the second most voted post on there, and I was like, "Come on, guys! Like, if you're on the thread for the panel
You're having
of
a
which
giggle,
one we
mate.
showed all this stuff," and I was like, "Did you watch the talk?" But of course, people missed it.
it was a long day with a lot of stuff, and not everybody has time to sit there and watch. And a lot of people, you know, they instead
didn't
choose
remember
to
seeing
watch
the
a little
compass.
summary thing. That, you know,
yeah.
they watch a YouTuber summary or a streamer somewhere, and things get missed. I mean, it's
100%.
just physics.
But obviously, when you're a developer and you're having lots of meetings about compasses and stuff as well, you're so invested about it, and when you finally get out, you're like, yes, and someone's like, where's that thing? It's like, oh, we had like a 2-hour meeting about this.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm not complaining about anything. Not everybody has all the time to do these things. It's the content creators that make the shortened version stuff are invaluable to getting the message out. But physics is simply, if you take an hour-long thing and cut it down to 8 minutes, something gets missed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it happens. Wow, we're
only
just
watch
hitting the
one
big ones.
creator.
Okay, we went from armor to FPS radar to night vision. Are different types of vision something you are working on right now? They will ask this question of every team. They'll ask it of the UI team. They'll ask it of the graphics team. They'll ask it of the FPS team. They're just hoping anybody has anything to say ever. Give us something, Zach. Something.
Just
say yes.
Obviously, when we've got our new scopes, and that is a good step in that direction.
Oh no!
We've been talking to graphics about it, and using the filter stuff that we have now. It is possible, and it is something we can look into, and potentially. So, no confirmations from us yet.
But that's just an FPS. There's so many other issues with in flight and all these other things, right? They're asking overall, but I guess what he's saying is that we might have thermals at some point in the future, and that's cool. But they should be extremely rare, stuff like that. But yeah, I'm feeling what Jared says, because he's just going to get this question answered or asked all the fucking time, because the dark sides of moons and asteroids, and anytime you're not in the light side of things, it is really not a good experience, right?
But
so
we've had those conversations. We're talking about it, and we need to figure out how we can do it, and where we do it, and where we put on, and how it looks, and so on and so forth. But you'll have seen in the ATSCAV sniper rifle during the talk, how there is like a tin, for example, on the sniper scope, and things like that are the sort of things that we're looking into, and having scopes with potentially like different shadings depending on manufacturers and things like that. So to slightly dance around the question, yes,
just do it. Just make the night vision,
please.
It's up to graphics, not me.
No, don't stop.
When I mentioned it to Ali, he ran away.
Just do it.
He was scared.
We're tired.
Soon.
Yeah.
All right, so it's not happening. Just give it up. Stop asking. When you stop asking, you ever get asked about something so much that you just don't want to do it? Like when people are annoying about it, that you're just like, fuck it, I don't want to do it. Stop asking about night vision, and I bet you they make night vision. You know what I mean? If you just stop talking about it, they're gonna make it. I think that's what's gonna happen.
You get nothing out of me.
Speaking of things that we're gonna necro all kinds of topics here. Are the wide variety of FPS gadgets still in the works? Things like breaching charges, EMP, gravity, radar scatter, decoy grenades, placeable shields, repelling wire, jump packs, gliding packs. I don't know what gliding packs.
This guy's just like making shit up. I don't know if all these
wingsuits, I guess. Maybe. What can you tell us? Anything about personal gadgetry? To mess shit up.
We're still working on those. Stuff like deployable shields. You've seen some laser trip mines. I believe they're on the PU now, and that's an example of a gadget that should hopefully be coming to the player. Some also more contemporary FPS things like flashbangs, smoke grenades, things you'd expect. The idea is we want to nail the core FPS experience before we move on to crazy sci-fi gadgets. So once we've got that stuff, it's nailed in, it's looking great, then we can move on to more crazy space things.
Like that answer.
So black hole grenade or anything crazy.
Sure.
You got to wait for that.
If I get a black hole grenade before I get night vision, I know where you sit. Why
are you so obsessed with night vision?
Because he gets asked it all the time.
I'm tired of getting asked about it, Jens.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, what about if I could give you
tired.
either subtle or night vision? Which one would you have?
Night vision.
Okay, it's good to know.
Jared's tired.
I actually understand this man.
Go for you, Jared. Go for you. I'll see what I can do.
Let's talk about pouches.
This is like when I was the manager at the casino and they asked when the air conditioning was going to get fixed. It's like, I don't know, man, but they ask every day. Can you do something about the air conditioning? I'm the tournament director. What do you want me to? I can't do anything about the air conditioning.
There's a segue. I'm a child of the 90s comics era. I love pouches. One presentation showed off pouches we can attach to our gear to add additional storage space. Another presentation showed a more limited inventory window made for easy looting. Will the two systems work together, or are pouches already being phased out in favor of a streamlined Squadron 42 inventory system?
There will be pouches.
There will be pouches.
They are in concept. They
They're in
will work with
concept.
the inventory we're showing. There's some concepts to be on the looting as well, and that's all I know. But yeah,
Because I'm not full on like whenever time I play a video game that has comic characters, I always got to use those 90s versions of the characters that have all the pouches, like the Spider-Man, Scarlet Spider that's got the pouches on his ankles. He had little pouches on his ankles. I'm like, bring that stuff back. I love that stuff. Lost control of the show.
Yeah, you look like you're
Pouches
not
were
all knit
something that
together.
looked like they were very done. Apparently not.
Prep. This is what happens.
And I think it's because there's still that UI issue of you're going to have 30 different containers now. We can't have this really sleek UI anymore. So now they have to refigure out how all of it's going to work. And it makes sense. But damn, dude, some of these things I thought would be like pretty snappy 322, 323 into the game just are not. And I got to say, I'm pretty sad about it.
We talked about ammunition. We talked about the reloading, the ability to interrupt, the ability to stuff like that. What about magazine repacking? Having multiple magazines with only a few rounds is quite annoying.
Oh, good question. Yeah.
You want to talk about this?
I mean, I think Nash on the looting screen, we actually showed a little bit of
we
this.
did. Yeah, so it's probably a bit quick. It hasn't been balanced at the moment.
Okay,
so
that
we
was the answer I
call
wanted.
it the ammo repooling. But yeah. So the player can trigger for the different magazines using the looting screen, but the player can also trigger it outside of the looting screen. So if he's holding a weapon and you can trigger the ammo repooling using the same key binding for the looting, and that will
Whoa.
trigger the repacking for the magazine that we're currently holding. But yeah, we still balance.
It wasn't just a little bit fast, it was instant. So when you repooled into another, like let's say it was 15 and 15 in magazines, it just instantly turned into 130 30 round mag, and the other mag just disappeared. So listen, I personally want pulling every physical bullet out of the magazine and putting everyone in. Maybe not animation, I don't know. But like if you ever look at Tarkov where it's just like click, 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 and there's a circle that fills up. I personally want that. That's my personal opinion. With lasers weapons, maybe you have like a battery that you attach it to and that repowers it up or something. Because what I really want to have out of the game is how are our armors going to become really important? How is ammo going to become really important? And the way that those become important in the game is if there's different types, and different types of armors are penetrated by different types of ammo, and so on and so forth. So you might want to take out certain things and put in like certain ammo and put in certain ammo. And it shouldn't be instant in the middle of a fight when you recognize that that person is wearing that armor. You shouldn't be able to instantly switch to the ammo type that will dominate that player or something, right? Yeah, I think it's your, like, listen, we can agree to disagree. I'm just saying what my opinion is. I like it. I don't know. I've always liked that about DayZ. I've always liked that about Tarkov. It just felt very real. It was immersive, which is good, but it was also punishing for not being prepared. You know, maybe you would have a mag that has a different type of ammo in it. and then you would swap to that mag, come prepared or whatever, right? And there's lots of downtime in video games. This gives you something to do during that downtime. Maybe you're not doing it in the middle of a firefight, but if you have to do it in the middle of a firefight, it's punishing. I can totally understand. You're literally going to refund. I see somebody say that in chat. Okay, good luck with that one, because it's coming. I mean, she basically just told you it's coming. I don't know how quick or how bad it will be, but I would just say my personal preference is what Tarkov and DayZ does.
I'm seeing that at the moment is really quick, so there's really no consequence of using it. But
let's see, we've almost had time. I think we would squeeze in one or two more, though. I want to talk about the slide mechanic. That was another one that set Twitch chat on fire during the stream. With the slide mechanic, how do you intend to mitigate hitbox abuse by rapidly crouching or uncrouching? Will this be done with inverse kinematics and inertia, making the player take some time to stand back up?
I mean, I can only talk about if I flip the question and talk about the second half, I would say I love procedural animations. It's one of the things I really enjoy about gameplay. Yeah, exactly. Who doesn't? I definitely like it more than night vision, for sure. And
I like him.
Inverse kinematics, like we're using for the buttons, like anything that makes you feel like your character is actually touching the world. It sort of grounds them into the world so much more than an animation that sort of ends up like halfway between the intended target.
Yeah, I never thought her showing people touching panels on a wall would be so cool, and it really was.
And where it should be, or having to offer a unique animation for every situation or every metric you might have.
I also feel bad because what this guy showed was so much cool shit, but the Volt weapons, holy.
And in general, trying not
those?
to sort of force people into very specific metrics. These are all super important to me, so I can go on a long time. And then the other part of that was the inertialization. So that inertialized blending is something that I'm also really, really keen on. And we're definitely going to be exploring, because I think it will allow us to blend between a situation without traditional transition animations. And we can use the inertialization as ways to tweak the timings, like Zach was talking about. Like, do we punish you because you just did 3 slides in a row and your stamina is your heart is mega pounding it.
I think the argument is that people said you should not be able to do 2 slides in a row, and he's already talking about 3. I know it's just an example, but I think that's what people really had issues with, was that it felt very Call of Duty, and I don't think anybody wants that in this game.
It's going to take
I mean, some people maybe, but most people don't.
It'll be it's about me standing up, like old man standing up instead of Zach, young man, he'll be up jumping on your desk before I even got out of the seat, right? So that side of the question, that's 100%. Yeah, the whole animation side, I'm super, super excited about, super keen to get a lot of that stuff in. To the game.
Just while we're on the top of sliding.
On the design of Zach. Yeah, you go.
While we're on the top of sliding,
me.
Obviously the sliding has a high stamina cost. The more you slide, the stamina cost is tied to the aiming idle sway as well.
I know nobody's going to answer this question, so I'll just help him out. Guys, did any of you try to place a blown-up ship 1 SU box in the Sulian? You can let me know if it works or not, but it should not be working in the current game. But it will eventually. So if you're asking if it will attach to the grid, it doesn't attach to any grid yet. It did for a short time in Evo or something, but they showed it in ISC, and it won't yet.
Well, so while you're aiming, if you're exhausted, it's worse as well. And you can't fire immediately as you get into a slide. So we're treating it as more of a get into cover tactic than it is an aggressive tactic. So we're wary of how arcadey sliding is, but we're also conscious of the fact that we want it to be a function that exists for more getting into cover currently. That's the intention of sliding.
Okay.
I mean, it's a slippery slope from sliding, then you end up skiing, then you end up with spin fusers, and then everybody's shouting Shazbot.
If you want to set them off, you say dolphin diving.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means, so I'm not going to do it.
Dolphin diving
last question.
Please don't.
Do you have any more information to share regarding time to kill?
Yes. So
okay.
you'll have
Let's hear it.
noticed how it's now in the PU, I believe. We've done some balancing, and the health has there's been tweaking of the overall combat experience at the minute. That is essentially step one of the first.
Hey, DJ, is this time to kill in Arena Commander in 321.1? I saw you were here earlier. Maybe he's still here.
Other work we're doing. So the new
I haven't
AI has
played
gone
it.
in, and you take
Since
more
the patch
shots
went
than you
live.
did previously. And if you're in
It is
PvP,
gone? Okay.
you currently take more shots than you did previously. And this is an overall step forward to the balance that we
Okay, he said I heard it wasn't, but he doesn't know why. All right, and I'll dive back. This is way too important of a question to talk over, so we'll go back and
PU, I believe. We've done some balancing, and the health has there's been tweaking of the overall combat experience at the minute. That is essentially step one of the further work we're doing. So the new AI has gone in, and you take more shots than you did previously. And if you're in PvP, you currently take more shots than you did previously. And this is an overall step forward to the balance that we talked about in the Life in First Person talk, where we want to increase the TTK and make an experience which is, fair and engaging in both PvE and PvP environments. Because obviously there's been a lot of talk of frustration of, Star Citizen's, like it's a lot of prep work, right? It's before you fly down to a planet, before you fly down to a bunker, then, if you just walk out your ship and there's a guy hiding in a corner with an assault rifle and he beams you down, you've lost all that time. It doesn't feel overall fair. So we've done some changes, and we're going to continue working on. This is the literal first iteration that has gone in, and it's something we'll be iterating patch to patch, receiving feedback. This feels too long, this feels too short, this is unfair, even tying into like the injuries as well, right? Anyone who's done a lot of bunkers will have noticed a lot of they're getting a lot
really
more injuries
improved
now,
the
for example.
injuries.
So obviously, we take the point of realism, bring it back to fun, right? So the cost offset of increased health is that you get more injuries. So you are, you not punished, but for engaging there is a consequence, and it's not, the consequence isn't death. Now here is basically a injuries, medical system, medical gameplay, giving that more purpose, life, breadth, depth.
I was going to say, because any work on time to kill has to naturally include work on medical gameplay.
Medical gameplay.
You can't do those in a
It's
silo.
Yeah, it's a barrel fish, right? It's one of those things where it's like we don't just go in and tweak a number. We have to think of all the other cascading consequences and effects of all those things. But overall, the feedback has been quite positive. I've been annoying some Twitch streamers. I've been, annoying people on Reddit. Say, how do you feel about that? How's that going? Reading Spectrum and just getting an overall idea of what people think about it, how they feel about the current direction, because it's a very contentious issue when people talk about health, because it's always one of those things where,
difficult balance. This could take a lot of time.
Thing that everyone has preferences as well, which obviously plays into it, and it's one of those things where we take a wide variety of feedback, and we want to get somewhere where we can land the community's happy, everyone's happy, and it plays really good.
And this is so much more than just health. Health is just one aspect
Yeah.
of this overall time to kill. Shields, armor,
health,
injury,
armor,
medical gameplay, all these things.
And we're obviously all very conscious of that, and we're giving it to you now, and then you can give us feedback, and I think that's a good direction for us.
Okay.
Well, Jens, Inez, Zach, thank you for hanging out with us at the end of the week, joining us here on the spaceship. Thank you for taking the time to pull the questions from the community. I want to stress again, these were all questions picked by the developers. So these are the ones that they wanted to address and jump in and had the best info for. So thank you so much for doing that. You can go back to your desks and start working on night vision, and we eagerly await any update you can give us on that.
I did forget to mention one thing.
What about night vision?
No, not why. Even better. We're currently in the process of trying out if equipment obfuscates shots. Because currently, if someone hits like a magazine on your chest, you don't take any damage, and that's been a big community sticking point. And we're going to be
wear grenades to
trialing
not
that,
die,
and seeing how that goes and how that plays.
Like the magazine explodes?
The magazine will get wear, and you will take damage as if you got hit.
Cool.
I don't know if that's better, but
It's
I mean,
definitely better.
If you want to call it Star Vision, I'll
Bro, then being invincible, Jared, it's
allow
better.
it.
There was a conversation about, well, if you shoot a grenade,
Starvation.
if you shoot a grenade, it should explode on someone's body, and it was like, ooh.
All right. Jens and Ez, Zach, thank you so much. Who are you? Yogi, are you there?
I'm here. Hey.
Okay, we're going to take a break because Yogi's still here. And when we come back, we'll do part 2 where we follow up on the Taking Flight presentation. Stay tuned, everybody.
All right, guys, I'm also going to take a break. My org op starts right now. So I looked at the time and was like, this was an hour-long react. So it's probably a good place to make this a part 1. And then I'll do part 2 with Yogi later or tomorrow or something. So I'll just make it a part 1. And yeah, it's kind of panic time for me. I gotta go organize and everything. So thank you for watching this. I thought that was a really, really, really good panel. They missed, I think, probably one of the most important questions. So if there's any way to ask that guy, I want to figure out how, because that we should just hear click, click, click when we shoot our guns and there's no bullets in them. Yeah, it was a lot of pausing. So thank you for watching that with me, and I will, I guess, see you in part 2.